Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right in to crack the mechanical code behind literally one of antiquity's greatest physical puzzles. Look, we've all stared at the massive megaliths scattered across the ancient world and thought, how on earth did they actually do that? Well, today we're examining a specific set of source documents that hand us a fascinating, strictly mechanical blueprint for these supposedly impossible feat. We're not talking about magic here, and we're definitely not talking about science fiction. We are looking at sheer, brilliant hydroengineering. So let's start with this absolutely wild number one, 1,000 tons. That is the actual weight of some of the massive megalithic blocks found at Baalbek in Lebanon, specifically the famous trilithon blocks. To really put that into perspective for a second, that's roughly the weight of 3 fully loaded Boeing 747 airplanes, 3 of them. The sheer magnitude of a stone like that absolutely demands an explanation that goes way beyond just simple manual labor. For the longest time, traditional theories have seriously struggled to explain how you move something this heavy without firing up modern machinery. For years, the debate has kind of been stuck between two extreme camps: extraterrestrial intervention on one side, or just endless armies of slaves with ropes and ramps on the other. But the source material we're digging into today highlights a massive, glaring flaw in that slave theory. On the Baalbek platform, there literally isn't enough physical space for the thousands of men you'd need to pull an 800 to 1,000-ton block in unison. They physically couldn't fit. So the true answer isn't aliens, and it isn't an infinite number of laborers. It is master hydroengineering. Section 1. The All That's Holy Engine. The real crux of this whole thing is how the master builders actually moved these stones using the natural laws of Earth's water flow. They didn't try to fight gravity, they basically weaponized fluid dynamics. Enter the All That's Holy, or ATH, arc piston engine. The text described this as a brilliant, sprawling network of canals and barges that completely replaces the need for any kind of mythical intervention. By harnessing the power of displacement, these builders created a system to harvest continuous mechanical power right from the flow of water. This isn't an engine made of metal gears and cogs, it's a landscape-scale hydraulic system that turns water and buoyancy into an unstoppable pulling force. Picture the setup for a second. The builders would dig and flood these massive canal boxes all around the site. Then, to move the stones, they deployed ridiculously thick ropes. We're talking 9-inch braided silk or 1-foot-thick braided hemp, explicitly engineered for maximum interaction strength. These ropes were then rigged up to massive stone drum pulleys. But the real genius? It's the weights pulling those ropes, arc-sized barges. By floating these immense boats on the flooded canals, they used the sheer displacement of millions of kilograms of water to act as massive dynamic hydraulic weights. Section 2. The two-piston displacement system. Let's move right into the core of this engine and see how it builds up such an unstoppable force. The source outlines a two-piston multi-boat system that cycles between high-drag power strokes and low-drag reset strokes. You've got 2 huge barges, Boat A and Boat B. First, Boat A is put into high-drag mode, meaning its hull and control surfaces are set to catch as much of the reverse flow as humanly possible. As the current pushes Boat A downstream, it generates massive torque, doing the heavy lifting by pulling those thick 9-inch braided ropes around the stone drum. This initiates what the sources call the hydroglide, smoothly displacing the megalith's weight and pulling it forward. Now, while Boat A is doing all that heavy pulling, Boat B is in low drag mode, efficiently being pulled back upstream to reset. It's an ingenious, continuously breathing mechanical loop. But you might be wondering, what happens if this giant fluid dynamic system hits a snag? Because in a system this massive, cables can jam, hulls can scrape on shallow sections, or currents can suddenly shift. If you've only got 2 boats and one jams up, the whole operation just completely grinds to a halt. Well, that is exactly where Boat C comes in. The sources emphasize Boat C as a dedicated control vessel. Its whole job is to intervene and keep the two-piston displacement cycle breathing smoothly without breaking the mechanical flow. Think of it as a dynamic anchor and a load balancer. If Boat A or Boat B gets wedged on a sandbar or takes on weird asymmetric drag, Boat C uses its own power to pull them sideways into deeper water, or it offloads tension from a jammed cable. It's the absolutely crucial third element that guarantees the entire system stays stable and moving. Section 3. Hydroglide to ground lock. Okay, so you have this 1,000-ton megalith moving via the hydroglide, essentially rendered weightless by the barge displacement. But how do you safely drop it into its final resting place without shattering the stone or, completely crushing the workers? Well, they didn't just drop it. They used what the text refers to as a negative pressure squeeze. This is all about controlled thermodynamic engineering and managing fluid pressure. By draining the water away from underneath the barge, they forced the stone down through a localized vacuum to gently and perfectly lower it exactly where it needed to go. The mechanics of how they actually did this are just stunningly elegant. Once the megalith reaches its destination over the flooded canal, the builders deploy a remarkably simple yet highly effective ram pump made out of bamboo pipes and a copper fitting. Just pause and think about that ingenuity. This pump doesn't need electricity, it just uses the natural water hammer effect to forcefully drain the water out from under the barge. As that water is exhaled, the resulting negative pressure gently squeezes the block downward. The stone settles perfectly into a flawless, absolute stillness, which the documents proudly call a ground lock. Section 4. Eradicating the alien myths. So, let's look at why this physical receipt completely shatters the standard crutches we usually lean on to explain ancient history. For decades, when faced with the sheer scale and precision of sites like Baalbek, people just jumped straight to the conclusion that advanced non-human technology had to be involved. But when you stack up those wild physics-defying theories against the brilliant application of bamboo ram pumps, copper fittings, and water PSI, the ancient engineering genius is just undeniable. A smart builder doesn't need high-tech lasers or anti-gravity rays if they know how to puzzle out a solution with the resources right in front of them. The water vector, using water to float, pull, and perfectly lower immense weights, is by far the most efficient, logical solution. It gets machine-like precision through pure mechanics, not alien tech. The sources actually sum it up perfectly with this one idea. The master builders used the source code of the Earth. They didn't need magic, they didn't need spaceships, they utilized the fundamental built-in rules of the planet. Water flow, buoyancy, displacement, and mechanical advantage. They understood fluid dynamics so intimately that they literally turned a river and a few large boats into a continuous, heavy-lifting engine. Which really leaves us with this final thought for today. If the all-that's-holy arc piston engine perfectly explains the impossible stones of Baalbek through the incredibly smart application of water, ropes, and barges, what other ancient megaliths are out there just waiting for us to uncover their mechanical blueprints? From the pyramids of Egypt to the precision cuts of Pumapunku, maybe the answers aren't up in the stars at all. Maybe they're hidden right here in the ingenious, hydro-engineered source code of our own planet. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep questioning the impossible.